The seconds tick. Still alive. More seconds tick down. Saligo, they need a mark inside 50. Siren. But it's still a where will you win moment. Every showdown has a moment. The final siren. Let me
Alrighty, hello and welcome to the CREEDCAST. Right up until clicking record, Jamie and I have been off air going, do we want to do this? But we are here to review one of the worst games of football I have had to endure. Thankfully not in person, unlike Jamie. We will ask him about how that went, to be there in person to witness this absolute shit show. But yes, your Port Adelaide Football Club. I'm going to break with the tradition of this year with the World War II analogies, because I was like really not looking forward to looking up. Like I was just going to look up a few different battles and whatnot that I have half a memory of and like work out if they work. And then I was watching Jurassic Park a couple of hours ago while I was getting ready for this podcast, and I thought the perfect analogy for this game is the Raptors in Jurassic Park hunting helpless humans that do end up surviving, as our Port Adelaide Football Club does objectively live through this game, but otherwise it was just Raptors hunting. There was no competition. Like all the characters in Jurassic Park, everyone's seen it, I'm sure, can do is just run and hide and hope for the best from these just lethal machines of genetic engineering that are made for killing. And that was the Crows. I hate giving them the credit, but they were Raptors on the night, absolutely hunting the shit out of us and destroying us. Final score of 20 goals 13, 133 to 5-5-35 in a game that had what it looked like and 2 inches of rainfall in a quarter at one point is what it looked like. So for that scoreline to end up that way, I'm sure, I don't know what the actual rainfall was, but it looked like that. It was true old school footy in that sense for a little while there. For that score to end up that way, regardless of that, with that weather and everything, is just abysmal effort by our side. We'll talk about kind of the notions of effort and whatnot as we go on, I think, because there is some interesting things to look at in how our body language looked and just how our season's gone as a whole. But first of all, Jamie, hello, good evening, therapist. You were needed again. You were there. How are you recovering from that one?
Dave, hello. We made it. We're here and objectively alive. Yeah, great analogy from you. Raptors in Jurassic Park. Yeah, to the helpless humans, in our case, Port Adelaide Football Club. Hello to everyone else tuning in. I'd say hello to the new listeners, but I said to Dave pre-recording that yeah, no, it's arid, dry land as far as the eye can see in that regard. So, but thank you for the rusted-ons that tune in to support our venture and our hobby here. It is very much appreciated on what is a quite a difficult aftermath for all of us. So we're all in this together. Dave and I will do our best to work through it over what will maybe be one of the shortest episodes since we've come together, I think.
Yeah. You were there. How was that in person? I mean, obviously you were there amongst Crows faithful, which you were there with a Crows friend, who was one of the good ones. There is plenty of good ones out there. We will acknowledge that. But I'm sure you probably could see a few of the ones that we don't like around there as well, and they would have been cock a hoop. How was that trying to manage your emotions while surrounded by a fan base that was unfortunately witnessing history that is very positive on their side, but the worst kind of history on our side?
It was surreal. It was surreal to be involved in what was unfolding in front of everyone. There are a couple of things I am thankful for. The good company, like you mentioned. Uh, B, being undercover for what was
Yeah.
torrential rain. And then the third thing was the fact that I was actually, we were sitting so far back in the Eastern Stand that we're actually more or less in close proximity, surrounded by some port supporters, at least for the first half, first three quarters. But yeah, that last quarter in particular was pretty horrific, and I don't know if you can see, I've decided to wear my horror, my friend, good Adelaide band from the last 10 years beanie because it was a horror show to watch. But in saying that, I kind of just tried to keep as much communication as possible with my friend. And shout out to Elodie. Yeah, she's great company, like you said, and not one to rub shit in.
Hmm.
Which on Saturday night I was amazingly thankful for, and I wouldn't expect any less, to be honest.
Just a side note quickly, because I don't know if I'll
Yeah,
remember to bring this up again. Was she wearing her Rory Atkins port badge?
she was Rory Atkins. She
Good
had
on her.
Billy Frampton, and I think Miles Bergman, a big Miles Bergman fan. So actually
Nice.
has more Port players on on a Crow scarf than Crows players, funnily enough. So
Yeah, great stuff.
yeah, so my idea to avoid watching what was unfolding was just to continue conversation and other topics unrelated to football. And yeah, gallows humor can only get you so far, but like I said, it was actually quite surreal.
Hmm.
No one had high expectations. Your meme has definitely got a few rounds. I even saw the Adelaide Mail snippet into their kind of
Oh, did
attempt
they?
at comedy.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah. Like we had low expectations, but holy fuck.
Holy fuck.
Like it was white flag stuff. But in the end, and yeah, obviously we all have our perceptions on Crow supporters. Not too much for the large portion of this to kind of go against that. I think we had another Patreon chat going on Saturday, and I
Hmm.
think one of the guys asked how the crowd was, and I said after goals, very, very loud.
Yeah.
In between, um, you know, somewhat church mice. However, in that last quarter, it almost turned vampirical, if I can put it that way. Shark in the water. They could smell blood. Obviously, the guys playing on the field for the Adelaide Football Club, but also their fans. It was.
I did.
I'd expect nothing less from a footy fandom. To
Yeah.
be honest, I remember watching the Sydney game live at Adelaide Oval last year, and it gets to a point where it's very Kylo Ren in Star Wars. You're just like more,
Hmm.
more, more. You become like a rabid animal. Like I said, vampirical. As the margin was getting astronomically large and edging towards the Showdown record, and then edging towards the dreaded 100 points. It was quite animalistic, yeah, as you can imagine. But
Mm.
like I said, I just tried to just slip into a kind of surreal. It was almost an out of body experience for me, watching us just kind of put up the white flag and kind of bending over and taking whatever came our way.
Yeah.
In that last eighth of the game, I guess just looking at the summary here, it was just every moment seemed like a fait accompli that it was going to turn into a Crows goal. And a similar sentiment to the Brisbane 7 minute run.
Hmm.
They weren't missing the Crows. Every time they got the ball within cooee of the goals, they nailed it. So yeah, credit to any Port supporters that managed to stay the journey. I obviously did for that obvious reason, but I mean, funny though, there still was a large portion of Crow supporters who left early because the score was done. Um, and look, the weather was yeah terrible, terrible. There's yeah so many other ways to put it, but quite
Yeah.
simply, the weather was fucking terrible.
Yeah, because I mean, I actually thought about grabbing a ticket myself because there was still some available. But as you're aware, and listeners are aware, over the last couple of weeks, been battling a fairly severe cold, winter cold that I've been working through. So that was a genuine consideration for me. It was like, do I want to go down and potentially make myself worse again, just as I'm finally getting through this thing because of the weather? So, there could have been there's various factors, and I will never blame fans from any fan base for if your team is 10 goals plus up and you decide to tick off early because of the weather, that's something that's just a real human consideration you have. So, yes, I'm giving credit to Crows fan. Like I'm just being objective. And yeah, Port fans for sticking it out, including yourself. Obviously, I stuck it out and watching at home right to the end. Just crossing my fingers that they wouldn't reach the 100. They breezed past the Showdown record in the end, which was unfortunate, but that's what records are for, made to be broken, apart from the grand final one, apparently. But yeah, the commentary. I mean, you haven't neither of us have put ourselves through a replay today this week, which we usually do, regardless of the result. But I think most out there can understand there wasn't much need for it. We can,
Yeah, the
again,
KO Mini was enough.
didn't even do that. But what I do recall from watching it live is the commentators were all over first of all, the Showdown record once that started inching closer. Dwayne Russell, Rashudo, who was just doing my head in. He does my head in at the best of times when he's commentating on a Crows or Port match, but when it's Crows and Port and he's part of the commentary team, it's borderline. That was rough. But Dwayne was really on the different score lines and different records that came up. And once they breezed past the Showdown one, then the 100-point one started becoming the one that was coming, and it was fun. It was kind of funny in a dissociative. Like you said, it was almost like going into. I was listening to a random podcast about David Lynch's Lost Highway today, and they were talking about fugue states a lot because of that movie and how the dissociative properties of when people, the mental things that happen in David Lynch movies. I'm not going to try and explain a David Lynch movie in this podcast. No podcast has actually been able to do it. I don't think, but that's what I think you and I probably did. I just went into a different state of mind halfway through that last quarter. I was just like kind of watching, just hoping they wouldn't hit the ton after the Showdown record thing went past. And it was funny in that last, I think when it got to 98, 99 points, and then there was a centre bounce, and Port got the clearance, and there was a boo from the crowd. It was kind of fun. I found that funny. That was the only thing that I kind of locked into at the end. It was just like a little bit of, a little bit of humour from the crowd. They were baying for blood as they rightly, we would do it as you said. You've done it, but yeah, it was rough to watch that and just have the only hope for most of the second half just be don't let it get. And for right to the end of the third quarter, I thought, that's not going to get terribly out of hand, like 40, 50, 60 points, like probably what we expected. But then once it got past 60 and then they started really, their ball handling improved as the quarters went on, whereas ours didn't get any better at all.
No.
They started really
It was
generating
stark.
Yeah, it was. Disposal efficiency 59% to 52.7%. Both teams averaging in the 70 or 70.1 for us, 70.7 on the year for them. So a 0.6% difference on the year, a 6.3% difference on the day, which is kind of, we always talk
And
about.
I think that's somewhat flattering
Yeah.
somehow.
Well, the other aspect of that is they had 368 disposals versus our 300. So they've had 68 more disposals, so 68 more times to mess it up, but they've still gone at a 6.3% better clip. So that's where those numbers matter more, is like, if they'd been flip-flopped or whatever, then you go, well, we've done pretty well, but we had less of the ball and couldn't do fuck all with it. They had far more of the ball, and their efficiency inside 50 was actually better than the yearly number, 60% versus 52%. And we were at a dismal 34.9%, which we'll get to the lines in a sec, but I just thought I'd bring that up since we're talking about the ball handling. I mean, I don't know where to start. We can go to the lines, but
You're just on the disposal.
Yeah.
It was quite ridiculous 2 weeks in a row playing in torrential rain. Firstly, but secondly, this one annoying factor was just how poorly we handled the ball in comparison to the opposition that we played. We saw it against Hawthorn, and you go,
Mm.
oh yeah, whatever. Like, it's terrible conditions. They held it better. They're a slightly better team. They edged away. But again, this week, under pressure, and just one team looking like they're playing with a proverbial cake of soap, and then the other team at stages and critical stages in key contests, moving forward, obviously with a ton of confidence, just handling the ball so much better.
Hmm.
Even in space on our side, not getting it together, and And then in contest on the Adelaide side, just being able to handle the ball better. And I don't understand, you know, the tangibles that go into why that is. And I guess
Yeah.
these are all just symbolic moments of, Ken said it, like where both teams are at in his post-match press conference. That pretty much
Mhm.
sums it up.
Yeah.
But also in the chat that we had on Saturday, I put the point across that like we've been heavily focused on transitioning to a handball heavy game plan. That once this wet weather has come in, particularly these last 2 weeks, it's like we absolutely have no idea how to play in it, which
Mm.
is an indictment on the club and the team playing a winter sport, being Adelaide-based team where it gets kind of wet in the winter, um, and just being bereft of ideas of how to move forward. And Adelaide are top of the table. They're a well-drilled side this year, well balanced, but so we could hardly pick it up. And then when we did have the ball, we just had no idea how to use it. And as is the theme that has been for the whole season, just continually inviting pressure on ourselves.
Mm.
We all understand the shortcomings of our side at the moment, but just to look inept in handling pretty trying conditions, but not foreign and not to be unexpected when it comes to Australian rules football, let alone AFL football at the highest level.
Yeah.
Just a couple of observations that I made that seriously need attention in the coming off season,
Mm.
because we can't get to July and not know how to tackle those types of scenarios next
Yeah.
year and the years that go on in Carr's um, initial stage of his tenure. We just can't have it.
Mm.
It's just unacceptable not to be able to fucking pick up a football, even in the wet when other teams clearly manage to, and then not having any feasible strategy to get score on the board.
Mm.
Um, Hawthorn, once the screws started tightening, we couldn't get it to our forwards, and we even commented on the fact that if we did get it forward, our conversion rate was actually fairly decent. The
Mm.
fact of the matter is that we're just not getting it there. We're starving. A generational player in Mitch Georgiades is having a career year, starving players of opportunities to impact the game
Mm.
while relentlessly tiring ourselves out because we just overcommitting, turning it over, all the things that we've parroted all year in some of these more insipid losses, but even
Yeah.
in some of the general losses, some of these characteristics seem to pop up, which
Yeah.
again is unacceptable. When this is a team that played a certain way for a long period of time to the chagrin of certain people in and outside of the club. And while we were culprits of giving up a out the back goal, which we spoke about last year and has been spoken about for the last few years prior to this, we still managed to defend games pretty well as a whole for
Mm.
large portions of the season. And I feel that in an effort, again, it's a transition, it's a new game plan. And like I said in our mid-season show, you can't just click your fingers and everyone's just playing a new game plan, particularly when half of your first choice players are on the pine.
Mm.
But on one hand, be careful what you wish for. But B, if you do get what you wish for, perhaps a patience is needed in that regard. It doesn't change the fact that it's frustrating and annoying to watch this shit unfold in
Mm.
front of you and then ultimately seem as if you put up the white flag.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to bring up one thing. I mean, it's come up a bit this year, both in the fan base, and I guess we've talked about it at different times about our fitness levels. And I don't know if there's. I think the last quarter just became a procession when the Crows really got their game going, and we were just, on our back, on our heels, basically trying to stop. And it's hard to stop a team playing as well as they are when you're already kind of devoid of confidence and such things, and the wave is entirely going one way.
Mm.
But one thing I noticed that was really, and sometimes it just takes watching a game like this against, and it's not something I think we've talked about at different times with players and their builds and whatnot. Um, but when you look at a team, when you come up against your city rival and just see how quickly they've become the team they have, younger players looking fit, built, toned, center of gravity, tackling, all that, all good. They were tackling incredibly well. They weren't giving up on their tackles. They weren't letting pit guys go out of their tackles. Whereas we couldn't take a tackle. We couldn't take a
No,
tackle nor tackle them. Um, and I found just looking at the start side, I mean, they've been blessed with getting top 10 draft picks over the last few years. Getting the likes of Dan Curtins. You don't get Dan Curtins if you don't aren't consistent. And your Josh Richellis and your Riley Thilthorpes. I know Richelli didn't play in this game, but that's just three of their top picks. So they've missed a few as well, but over the last couple of years, I mean, Thilthorpe, the Western Bulldogs will probably be wishing that maybe they just let the Crows go with Jamara Ugle-Hagan in that draft. But the Crows will be
yeah.
happy. They're happy they didn't. They've been blessed with some top draft picks, but that's what this sport's designed to do. We might get our turn of that soon, although we're going to be in compromised drafts again. We seem to do that. We seem to bottom out whenever there's a new team coming in, which is really frustrating because we did that back in the early
Mm.
2010s. Um, but just, I think Kane Corns mentioned this on one of his show. I don't know which show of his 20, 30 shows that he's on. I don't say that as a slight. I think he's just a hardworking man. But he mentioned just hearing how the Crows are just attack the gym with such ferocity, both in the off season and throughout the season and whatever their fitness programs are. And he gave them credit for being one of the best, fittest sides and just in both how they look and their builds. Nothing. I've kind of thought about this at different times this year with our players, whether it be the younger blokes, and no slights on like I think Hugh Jackson applies himself really well, and a few of the other younger players do apply themselves really well. But they're just when you look at every Crows player, even the Sam Berry who's come on really well for them, Jake Saligo's a younger one as well. They're all just look fitter and more toned. And they're younger guy like Hugh Jackson. I can't remember which draft comparative to your Berries or Saligos, but they'd be similar draft ages, I think, or age profiles, and they're just, you know, there's just little things like that I was just noticing across the night. And maybe it's just because I'm watching a team demolish us, and I'm thinking about it and maybe making a situation in my head, but I don't think it's something that's isolated to me in what people are talking about and just how we both in our stamina and our ability to run through a game. And that's made to look worse when you just don't have a game plan that's working. So I am cognizant of that.
Hmm.
But just in our players' abilities to handle, or to be applying a tackle or being able to take it or shake a tackle, they were shaking ours so easily. And whereas we couldn't, we
Oh
just
yeah.
would fall into holding the ball situations. And there was a very, very stark contrast. There's not things I've noticed across the season, but the contrast was never starker than it was on Saturday night for me on in that front, just watching the game. It was at the forefront of my mind the entire night.
Yeah, good point on the tackling front. It absolutely shit me to tears how often they were able to shake a tackle,
Hmm.
and then alternatively, I think a bit of umpiring came into that as well. If I want to just kind of get completely go to an aside,
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
just some fucking
The umpires,
questionable.
the
Like,
umpires were the only ones that didn't realize it was raining. Apparently, like when Boak slides
again,
the
and
ball
we
over the
can, yeah,
line, and
we
it's
can.
just for fuck's sake, like.
Yeah, and look, I had the perfect view of that side on,
Mm,
and the Crows players led up the chase at the exact time that they needed to convince the umpire otherwise. But if they're still chasing the ball and he does the exact same thing, that call's not being paid.
mhm.
So in that regard, it is ridiculous, and it just in the end, I was like, come on, like give us some charity, like give us a few cheapies, because there was certain
It's real.
stages there, like.
Stop! He's already dead.
They're
Territory.
already dead. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. It was like give us a fucking break. Like
Mhm.
these calls aren't egregious. Well, yeah, the situations aren't egregious. Just fucking let it go for fuck's sake. You don't
Mhm.
need to insert yourself there. But you mentioned some of the tackles. Obviously, as I said, it shit me to tears how often certain tackles were breaking, but it also shit me to tears, how often we got told that, spinning someone around is going to get
Oh,
paid, and then we hold and hold a player. But for some reason, they're allowed time to shake the tackle in some instances
mm,
and play on. Alternatively, I saw a lot of Port players getting dumped after the ball was disposed of, and play on was inevitably the call.
yeah.
So that's just a little aside. The fitness aspect of it is interesting. Um, because we all know the Darren Burgess is has a reputation that precedes him,
Hmm.
obviously. Um, and it is always interesting when you're comparing a bottom half of the ladder team to a team that quite simply has, barring Joshua Shelley, basically a full complement.
Yeah.
Um, Matt Crouch even came back in the SANFL, so
Well, they're having the
or he might
discussions
have
in the
been there for a couple of years,
yeah,
couple of weeks, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're having the discussions in the commentary as to how Matt Crouch gets back into this team. So that's how well they're going at the moment, as far as their stocks available are.
And I tend to think he would probably help them in finals, for fuck's sake. But so it is hard to compare because by and large we're leaving too much to too few
Mm,
because our top end talent is very good
yeah.
at the moment, and like your Zach Butters, Connor Rosie's, Aaliyah on one leg, they're fighting the good fight as it were.
Mm,
But the underbelly is just either inexperienced or young. But so just pulling like just looking at our injury list and just imagining how our side would have looked and in terms of how they would have looked physically
mm,
more so than anything. And I look at Jason Horne-Francis. I think he's pretty fit.
yeah.
He looks pretty muscular. He looks pretty solid. Um, Todd
He-
Marshall, I think it's been well publicized from us in recent times.
mm,
But also, yeah, Connor Rosie, Chad Corn. So Chad Corn said 6 to 7 kilos of muscle. Connor Rosie said 10 kilos gross. So yet to be seen, but a bigger, stronger presence.
mm,
Sam Powell-Pepper looked super fit before he got fucking injured. Radagalier looked super fit.
yeah.
Ryan Burton, if you want to classify that as a first 23 player, he's a senior fit body. A fit in quotation marks because his joints and hamstrings keep
Yeah.
fucking letting him down. But in terms of aesthetics and strength, I'd say he looks fit. Jack Lukosius and Lockie Jones played on the weekend.
Mm. I'd never
Lockie Jones is
question.
obviously
Lockie
Man
Jones is a
Mountains, so
muscular man. Some
yeah.
people are.
Well, and just
There
on
is
just on
players that
Lockie
are
Jones
just
though.
top draft
Yeah,
picks are probably more genetically blessed in general, I think. So that's probably part of it as well. It's just
yeah.
Adelaide as a team across the 23 that played on the night
Hmm.
looked a fitter, leaner, muscle fibers, twitch, muscle, all that just looked aesthetically like they were. And yeah, we're bringing a lot of guys up. It would be nice if some of those guys that would come. And I just think our fitness program isn't as good as it could be, and that's what. Like, I
Mm,
don't think it's, and I think they're marginal differences from the Crows to us. Like, if you actually
yeah.
compared them, like we're talking about high performance professional football teams. I'm not saying we're living in the 80s and there's guys, smoking cigarettes and drinking beers in the rooms. And it's not, not, yeah. Like, what was it Darren Lehman that said that he quit the cigarettes and had the worst patch of form in his life and got back to beer and cigarettes and he was fine? So some people are
Yeah.
enigmas in that sense, but that's another time. But yeah, it's just,
Whatever provides you the flow state and the
yeah,
zen in your
exactly.
mind.
Yeah. Yeah, we just looked, and again, they just have drafted and recruited quite well over the last few years, and that's a credit to them and what they've done. But yeah, we just looked a different team comparative to the other one on the field. And yes, there's a lot of injuries, but yeah, you just liked it, and it's just even as like Dan, like the mismatch, they did it again, finding the mismatches down when they go forward and like find Dan Curtin marking over Kane Farrell, and like it's not Kane Farrell's fault, like he's just not going to outcompete Dan Curtin in the air when Dan Curtin's got the drop on the ball as well as far as positioning for it as well. It's just like they exploited
Mm.
those quite well. And then at the end of the game, it got very easy for them as well. But in those crucial moments where it felt like the game was on, they just exploited mismatches at crucial times, whether it be down forward or, Jesus Christ, their marks inside 50. Where am I looking? Marks inside 50, 14-4 on a wet weather day. Like they averaged 12 and a half. Like they actually took more marks inside 50, and they only took 48 for the day. So they're taking like a quarter of their marks over a quarter of their marks for the day inside 50, which is just incredible. It's incredible stuff. When you compare it to our marks, we had 4 inside 50 and 37 for the day. Like it's just
Yeah.
brutal numbers.
Well, it is an interesting topic. It's obviously come up various stages throughout this season. And I remember in the preseason, Stewie Graham having an interview, press conference, and him commenting on changes that they had made to their fitness program. And it is interesting, though, because we're a couple apprentices away from Darren Burgess's program,
Mm,
13 years ago, which is,
yeah.
it's funny. And obviously, everyone has their own ideologies and processes and how they want certain things to run from a high performance. And I'm not going to try and pretend like I know how to manage fitness at elite sporting levels.
Even at my level, I
But
don't
it
manage
is,
my fitness super well.
yeah, no, I mean, I know a thing or two about health and fitness, although like you, yeah, it doesn't necessarily show on my body. But like you said, I think it is marginal, but
Mm,
it's also interesting what club and what high performance manager is looking to get out of their team and how it relates to their game plan.
yeah.
Things that us nuffies will never know. But like you said, all you can go off of as a fan and as an onlooker is what you see right in front of you. And like you mentioned, it is with some objectivity that they broke more tackles than we did.
Mm,
And there has to be some sort of a reason for that. Obviously, motivations were different in certain moments.
mm,
One team's got a full head of steam, full of confidence. There's that kind of mental aspect to it as well, that affects everyone differently too. It's a very interesting topic, and a bit like the game plan from a football strategy point of view. If mistakes have been made, like some people hypothesize, then they absolutely need to review it within an inch of its life, address what went wrong, and fix it as quickly as possible.
mm.
But until we see our best team on the field for a consistent period of time, it is kind of hard to gauge. And sorry, to further that, implementing and executing a game plan how it is supposed to be executed may change some perceptions too.
Yeah.
Um,
There was already some Twitter talk about like you just wait until next year and see Josh Carr actually have the keys to the car. Like how different it might look.
Very
So
Boston. Got
yeah,
the car.
car. It's gonna be a wicked smart game plan. Yeah, like there's already some suggestions from people on the Twitters that once Josh Carr does properly have control, that things might look a bit different and for the better. I'm not going to name names or anything. It's, people I sometimes agree with, sometimes disagree with, but it's just interesting to seeing what people are talking about and whatever insight they have. Yeah, just those. We've been talking about tackling a lot. I should just mention the numbers quickly. 103 tackles to 73. Obviously, the Crows favour, so it's a plus 30 difference on the day. Obviously, a lot more tackling than the average due to the
And
weather.
that's the team that won by 98 points. They had
Yes,
30 odd tackles more than what we did.
even though we had the ball for 68 less disposals as well, so we should
Disposals.
have a marginal even if it just is somehow equal because we're the team. But yeah, they had more tackles, they had more disposals, they had better disposal efficiency. They had, insane numbers that just show the effort on either side was. I mean, our effort. I don't think. was I'm never going to say a team stops trying, but I think there's just a point, there's an inflection point on a season in which you just have no hope, and that just effort subliminal. Like we talked about it in round one when we lost, and the immediate questions came after the post mortem of losing to Collingwood in such devastating fashion. From the Fox crew, I think on the night, like David King and co, immediately went to the succession plan and said, "Is there that subconscious thing?" And he talked about being part of premiership teams and the absolute 100% buy-in you need to have in teams subconsciously to reach that level. There's just a thing that has to happen organically, magically, whatever you want to talk about. There's just something that happens when a team gets to that level, and it's very hard to quantify. But that's just that thing. It's that secret sauce, whatever you want to call it. The opposite is that when you're a team just muddling around in the mud or whatever you want to call it, and you're in a succession plan, whatever it's just the evidence for me now is there. Hindsight's 2020. We both hoped for the
Oh
best, and
yeah, I was
I
going to
don't.
say his comments are largely vindicated.
Mhm.
Even when you put to one side the absolutely torrid time that we've had getting a full team on the park.
Yeah.
Um, even with that considered, I get yeah, I guess you have to say that those comments are somewhat vindicated because far too often we've commented on the perception that the team isn't quite invested the way that they say they are and the way that you would hope someone is,
Mhm.
trying to send someone off that they deeply care about and whatnot. But you can't help but think that those comments are fair.
Yeah.
While we want to deny things like that when they're said in the moment, and like that round one game, like we could have just ended the season there. I mean, it just kind of
Yeah.
it was the biggest foreshadowing of things to come that there could ever be in a round one game, and often round one games are all but forgettable for their relevance on the season.
Mhm.
Um, but unfortunately, that as well as Miles Bergman's first centre clearance on this
Oh,
particular game, pretty much just sum up the whole season.
yeah.
They epitomise exactly what has gone on. We're no sooner out in the park, and then we're kicking the wrong way and at a hiding to nothing ever since.
Hmm. Yeah, we were lucky that Darcy Fogarty missed that one, but in the end, it didn't really fucking matter. I
One of the
thought.
most accurate kicks in the AFL, Darcy Fogarty,
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, he can
So
dob him from
even he
anywhere.
was dumbfounded, I suppose.
Yeah, and I thought that was a sign of things to come. Like maybe the footy was, well, the footy shouldn't have been that soggy because it basically went from the ruck to Miles Bergman's hands to Darcy Fogarty's chest. But thought maybe it's just heavy feet out in that slog of a field. But apparently it didn't matter once the end of the game came around when there'd been another fucking downpour in between. Um, Yeah, that should have not. I mean, that was a sign to what was to come as far as the game goes. Like, I think in that moment, I immediately thought about all those questions as well around the succession plan and the buy-in of the year. Like that shit just doesn't happen to a team that's bought in. Like I mean, we don't see that happen really at all. I think one of the Crows mid,
Oh yeah, it's
I
very
can't remember if it
rare.
was Jake Saligo or it was a Crows mid that was interviewed and asked
I
about
think
that.
yeah, Saligo.
It was
Yeah,
Saligo, and he kind of said, "Look, you do have to remind yourself a few times a game." Or he said in his experience, I think I'm paraphrasing. I just saw it as a quick snippet somewhere. And he
yeah,
said
I
it's
saw
something
it
you
too.
think about, and I can imagine they do. Like, because especially at a center stoppage, you're moving a lot, so you've got to keep your bearings. And but
The world's spinning
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But I think the fact that he got such clear air and then just booted it in the completely wrong direction is just a little. And we love Miles Bergman. He's just signed on for a couple of years, and well, and we hope it'll be longer than that. But at least we know we've got him for another couple of years, and he's had some great performances this year. But for him, I mean, I think he is battling injury, and we'll talk about that later on. With some reports about the rest of his season's prospects. But yeah, it was again that was the sign right there that this game may not go the way we want. But then we have a little period that we get back in the game, and it's like, oh, maybe we can. But it just wasn't to be. Yeah, I'm trying to
wasn't
think
that
of
a flash in the pan?
Yeah, yeah, 3 goals in a. We kicked 3 goals in a row in this game at one point, and we kicked five for the entire night. So, um, I think that says,
Two goalless quarters
uh,
as
yeah,
well in the mix.
yeah, it really
There's
felt
just
like,
some real unacceptable stuff
mhm,
on
yeah,
paper.
one goalless quarter in a showdown is pretty unacceptable. Two of them is on the way to a 98 point loss is yeah, unacceptable. I can't think. I'm trying to think of words worse than I'm just. It's unacceptable. It's yeah, an absolute shit show. Um,
Insipid.
yeah, yeah, that would be a good one. Thank you. He's a therapist and he's a thesaurus. Jamie. I guess we should just run through the lines quickly. I mean, if we can talk about any other generalities with the game as it goes on, but if you have anything else, feel free to bring it up at any point. But I don't think there'll be much to say on each line, but we can probably dive into a few more of these little team stats as we go. But we'll start with the defense. Again, a hiding to nothing as this game wore on. The Crows immediately showed that they were going to have the ascendancy on the day. Because contested possession for the first 5 minutes of the game was like 12-5. Inside 50s were 10-2. With almost not even halfway through the first quarter, that kind of extrapolates out to how the game more or less went. Apart from our little periods of play, um, I made a note. I didn't make too many notes throughout the game. They got less and less as the game wore on. Um,
Mm.
I did make a note early because the commentators were trying to talk about what the kind of game plan Port were trying to play, which was again like it was kind of like a the gif of the guy slapping that fucking tape on the tank felt like what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
I made a note as well that I felt like it was like classic, like, well, and it didn't work out this way, but it felt like when Jose Mourinho would come to Anfield looking and all he needed was a draw, and like classic Jose Mourinho ball when he was coaching at his peak was like park the bus stuff and attack you on the counter like the Steven Gerrard slip game. Like we needed to win that
Mm.
game. They just came knowing they needed a draw, and they ended up winning it because they could just counter. But obviously, AFL football, while you can park the bus a little bit as far as trying to mitigate damage, you can't actually win the games that way. You're not going to get enough score over the bat, particularly how damaged we are. So it only felt like a matter of time. And the Crows did get their goals, and we found our way back into it. But ultimately, I just think that we set our defense up to fail in how we tried to attack the game from the beginning. We didn't attack the game with any intent. The contested ball was poor. This is getting a bit midfieldy, but just I'm more talking about in the way that it didn't help our defense because they were immediately under pressure. I think they performed considering the pressure they were under. Again, our defense won't get any chocolates out of this one with the way the game finished and scoreline wise, but I think they tried to hold up their end of the deal, which was the raw deal
Mm.
given to them by the game plan as best as they could at the start. We're still a Hodge. I don't think we're a great defensive matchup for how their team when they're on song, but I think they did the best they could under the circumstances. Is all I can say.
Yeah, yeah, it's really hard to, yeah, I don't know what I'm trying. It's really hard to give praise to a line that suffered at the hands of the Adelaide Football Club, but I
Hmm.
tend to agree that they could only do what was in their power for the most part on a yeah, terrible night,
Hmm.
terrible night. On many fronts, I thought a couple of our best players actually came from the defensive line just for flying their flag, not the white flag, but flying the flag for the
Hmm.
team. But unfortunately, yeah, there's only so much tape you can slap to a leaking tank, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and it's a comment that we make, and maybe we've given them more outs than they perhaps deserve this year because we've commented on this a lot. Um, you look at Alir and Zerk Thatcher, who had most of their disposals were intercept possessions and things like
Hmm.
that. Kane Farrell with his rebounding and his meters gained. But unfortunately, when you're in disarray, to it's hard to defend.
Hmm.
When the ball is just coming in that often, to what is one of the most well-performed forward lines in the competition. You mentioned their goal tally in our Patreon show on Thursday.
Mhm.
It's just the even spread of goals across their forward line makes it almost impossible. And um, the only chance we would have had is to, you know, having a Radaglia there would perhaps help. Having the midfield actually put on some genuine pressure, holding tackles, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
But I don't, again, without a replay, I really don't know how to criticize them. Bergman is playing with one shoulder.
Mhm.
Jace Burgoyne has seriously dropped off, even within this year,
He's just
and
my constant
perhaps
watch at the
again,
moment, to be honest. He's my constant watch, and I think he'll get it right, but it's been a really, really disappointing year
yeah.
overall for Jace.
I mean, yeah, and we're talking about a 21-year-old,
Yeah.
like who we have the highest amount of hope for and expectation for. And then you've got a Josh Sin who is 22.
Mm.
And these two are light frames. So to go along with your fitness comment, um, easily disposed of when you consider that Keys is the player. Keys, Neil Bullen, some solid, more
Mhm.
experienced players, good contested one-on-one players. They just have no hope. What I found funny, and I don't know if funny is the right word, maybe in a gallows humor way, was I
That's all
felt
we
that
got.
I felt that Lockie Jones handled the ball better than he has all year.
I thought the
I don't
same.
know.
I
Again,
was
no replay,
no, I
but it
from
was a
my
literal
TV
cake of
view.
soap, and he was the only one that was taking it cleanly.
There was one point he came
And
flying out of the defensive 50 and like gathered the ball in front of him and actually generated a like forward movement by just taking the ball as like a ground ball get as it's coming at him off the skiddy surface. And I'm like, and it stuck out to me so much because of how bad everyone else was doing it. But it was just like, wait, that was
yeah,
Lockie? That was two take Lockie was like just grabbing that one
am I
and
taking crazy pills?
yeah.
What? Yeah,
Uh,
that was definitely something that stuck out to me live at the ground. I
mm.
was like, how are you handling it so well here in this scenario, but on a dry day in the autumn of Adelaide? Yeah,
He's a guy that could do it
sometimes
on a cold,
eludes
wet,
you.
windy Wednesday at Stoke City. Is Lockie Jones?
Stoke, yeah,
Yeah.
apparently. I
um.
mean, and then in the end, when you're chucking, I mean, Logan Evans, again, a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
So the top end of our defense, Farrell, Aaliyah, thought they had good games. Zerk Thatcher, while honest, he's seriously been impeded by his injury. And just his conditioning as a whole has suffered because of it. And then,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that
well, and
once
then
that
they're having
drops off,
he's having to be the second for like the one of the two main tools in a defense that's having to take on board 65 inside 50s. Like no
mm,
winning team is ever wanting to regularly contend with that because we gave up over 60 to Hawthorn last week as well. So they've been like in the last couple of weeks
yes.
they've dealt with like I think it might have been 65 as well. I can't remember exactly. So if it was, then it's about 130 inside 50s that they've had to contend with, and so possibly and these are guys that play. Let me just look at the time on ground numbers. Aaliyah had 100% on ground. Zerk Thatcher was 98%. So these are guys that are on ground for essentially the entire game, week to week. They're the only two guys that hit those numbers. Rosie on the ground for 95%, which is insane considering his injury that he's carrying. Yeah, they're guys that have it's essentially been on ground for every inside 50 they've had to intake over the last 2 weeks, which is off the top of my head 130. So, um, yeah, Zerk Thatcher isn't a player that's, he's last year you saw his, I mean, not impeded by injury and we were a better team. So you saw he's come back from injury, had his main partner in Radaglia go down when they were probably trying to bet in the three because we thought they worked okay together. And then he's just, been thrown to the wolves the last few weeks with the amount of ball they've just had to contend with. You saw Aaliyah at one point start limping again. He's battled through that injury well, but they're being thrown to the wolves with the way the ball is just coming in at them constantly.
Well, and in Zerk Thatcher's case, well, and I mean, I guess you could say Aaliyah as well. Um, the ball's coming in that often, and they're matched up against guys who are objectively bigger than them.
Hmm.
Now, you can offset that size difference if the pressure up the field and the structure and the defensive accountability is implemented to a higher degree.
Hmm.
But when you're matched up and even so those are the obvious one-on-ones for their tall forwards. Their tall forwards are still bigger than them. That it's just obvious for all to see. So even our better defenders can only do what they can with what they're
Yeah.
given. And then when you're chucking Darcy Byrne-Jones back late, that just about says it all. I
Yeah, and he,
think
he had one of those
that
ground ball ones that he tried to go out, pick it up, didn't grab it, tried to clear it off by foot, and which was just
missed it.
one of those efforts that's just symptomatic of a team that isn't giving the full 100% at it because he's gone to try and grab it. It's slipped out of his hand. He's like, fuck it, I'll just hack it off I think I can get whereas he should have gone. The Crows were going for the second ground ball every time, whereas we were just we half-ass it and again, I'm not criticizing them as professional footballers that I don't think give effort. They just were that subconscious was that we're not in this anyway. Why that there's a subconscious state I think that happened on the night once the game got away from them. And that goal, I think can't remember who scored the goal, but that did result in a goal. And Darcy Byrne-Jones is not a player I've questioned. We've actually been quite positive with him most of the year down forward. And his efforts down forward have been, I mean, he's got suspended for one of them at one point this year. So, and never, but it's just like you could just, and he wasn't alone. That's just the one that came in when you mentioned his name. I just had a
Oh,
PTSD
it's
flashback
definitely
of
one
that
that's
moment.
yeah.
Yeah. Because it was,
I think it was
that was,
Saligo maybe who kicked the goal.
yeah, that was about when he started
But
really coming into form for the game. Like, yeah, junk time Saligo. Yeah, that's facetious. He had a good game, and I can't. I think he got better as the game got away from us, but I can't. That's not his fault. It's like Jason Gillespie scoring 200 against Bangladesh. You can only play who's in front of you, and no one else fucking did it either. So, um,
yeah.
yeah. Look, I don't know if we've got anything else to say on the defense. Oh, that was actually pretty good chat. I think actually I was enjoyed that. Trying to metabolize that down to something digestible. It was they were hung out to dry. But I think Aaliyah and Zerk Thatcher are battling okay, considering they're both not nearly at 100%, despite the fact they're playing 100% game time. So, and they're not getting the help they want out of the likes of your Jace Bergwines or whoever else is down there. Miles Bergman getting thrown back and forth. They just don't have a consistent group around
Well,
them.
and injured
Yes.
on Bergman's account.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. And that just doesn't help. That synergy is really, really required when you're coming up against a team that's got the best forward line mix in the competition at the moment in the Crows. But when you consider the mosquito fleet they've got alongside the formidable tools, it's just there's damaging weapons everywhere, whether it be at ground level or in the air, and they were still marking the ball well, considering it was the game it was. Their tools were still having a day out. So, I mean, Thilthorpe won the medal, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did. I did not stick around and I have not watched that presentation, but I saw a photo before of him with the medal around his neck.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, deserved as well. Uh, Midfield, I give him the credit for I don't give him credit. I saw it. Sorry. Look, we're underdone there. I think Butters battled well, but it suddenly feels like such a lone hand area for there at the
Yeah.
moment. Missing the players we are. It's such a weird mix at the moment. Drew's one that I'd love to see. Like, he's been around long enough. Like, now and then, I've got the jealousy looking over the other side of the aisle. Drew would be one that would be fun. Like, with the way he plays, just get in the gym in the summer and see what you can do, like see where your body can end up. Like you don't want to change what
I've
you are, but
seen a bit of chat about that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like we just have like Butters. We would like again. We talked about it in the preview. Like the last showdown was a big HORNE-FRANCIS and POWELL-PEPPER game, and their absence was felt in this one. Not that that's as much midfield, but I mean,
Yeah, just some battering rams, some
yeah,
bulldozers. Like, yeah, missed that harder edge. And we've got an Ollie Wines who, look, Ollie Wines gets 25 disposals, but
he's carrying an injury as well. It's like,
I think there's a
not
theme
many,
here. I
not
think there's a
many.
theme here.
Yeah, I'm actually getting to the point where I'm like, I don't know if there's anyone that's not. Yeah,
Yeah, and supporters are just like send them all to this, to Sportsmet, get them, and then it's like, okay, we're literally fielding an SANFL team for the next month if that's the case. Like,
yeah, and
you know,
there's a part of me that like is like,
yeah,
yeah, I don't want to go losing every game for the rest of the season. But the part of me is like, I do want everyone. I don't want to get to the start of next season and have some of these guys carrying injuries. So it's an interesting proposition, but yeah, the balance for leadership as we get through these last few games is an important factor as well. But yeah, I mean, the one area of the day that actually isn't terrible, it isn't good, it isn't terrible, was clearance. Like we didn't get smashed like we have in the past, but it was like we did smash them at clearance last game, and this what they did flip the script on us in this one. I think Sweet had a good game though. Considering we talked about the ruck battle, was like we thought this was a really good battle for Sweet going into this one being a showdown against Riley Bryan, who's been in really good form and just signed a 3-year extension, I believe, for the Crows as well. So it's kind of put to bed one of the
yes.
interesting storylines for the recruitment game this season and into the off season. So yeah, I think Sweet had a reasonable game. They just were better again. It's just that hunt, the ground ball and the cleanliness out of the stoppage is kind of where they got that slight gap, and then it's that second and third effort after that one again. The chain of possession outside of stoppage, like we just would get ourselves into a pressure situation, whereas they found ways out of stoppage or clearance or centre clearance and just were able to get forward. Like that's just, it's not sometimes the clearance game. Like that's what we've been a reasonable clearance side this year, stoppage in particular at times. They
It's just how you're clearing it. Like, what are
yeah,
you doing with the football? I mean,
yeah,
like
like
you just said, in the first showdown, we absolutely killed them.
mhm.
Yet we find ourselves on the loss side of the ledger, and this time around we lose clearance, but we're still there and thereabouts. But what are we doing with it?
Yeah,
You mentioned something in that little bit there, which I noticed on the at the game, is that Adelaide's ability to support their inside midfielders. So,
mhm.
yeah, and in some of these losses, and even some of our more challenging wins, for me, it's just been far too often that the opposition are competing on the inside, but there's always avenues on the outside for them to take. There was always someone to relieve pressure and then find a target outside of the contest.
Mhm.
Whereas I don't think, like, yeah, Butters 34 disposals, Wines 25, Rosie, although back and forth, 22 disposals. Well, I'm like, we can get our hands on the ball, but I think our ability to support has severely diminished as the season's gone on. Again, like you mentioned, Zach Butters seems to be playing a lone role. He seems like the only one who's actually willing it forward with any idea of what to do.
Yeah,
We seem to be getting the ball and either inviting unnecessary pressure, or alternatively, if we're not under pressure, there's no one there to support, no one to give the handball out the back of a stoppage or on either side. The most informed, confident teams seemingly always have an avenue, and most of the time they don't even have to look to
mhm.
know that their player is there to help. They just know. And in our regard, I think that's something that's severely lacking in our midfield play.
Yeah.
F
I
Extenuating
mean, I'll
factors
give
or
you a number
not.
here that I've just gone. I actually didn't pick it out of my stats before, but so contested possessions for the game we were minus 23. Like, same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. But so that's 172 to 149 in the contested possessions, obviously, Crows Way. Post clearance contested possession is 116 to 87, Crows Way, obviously. So that's a minus 29 difference. So our post clearance, like in that, just narrowing it down to the contested possession post clearance was worse than the actual total. So that's like essentially where the game was won again. And so I just wanted to give you that for your point because you're talking about that help around the inside. Like that's yeah, that number kind of spells that out for what you're saying, what you're seeing as
Mm,
well. I think just that's stark. That's where the entire contested possession difference comes from, essentially.
mm. And Adelaide were plus 12 free kicks. Just to continue
Yeah.
my bent on on the umpiring on the night. Oh, that was another fucking thing. Is that apparently the Crows have recruited a couple of duckers. The amount of times that James Peatling
Uh,
fucking lurched into an arm and Julie got rewarded for it, and Saligo is a fucking culprit too.
mhm.
I fucking hate it. And as I said to my friend Elodie at the time, because I obviously brought it up and mentioned a similar thing as to our Patreon chat, was that they should change their name to the Ducks from the Crows, and not to disparage the Ducks we like over in the US. Um, but and like I said to her, fair fucks for the player, whether it be an Adelaide player, a fucking West Coast Collingwood, Port Adelaide, fair fucks to the player actually doing it. But how often are umpires continuously going to pay what is clearly a play on a high contact free kick?
I can't think we didn't get the
Just
benefit of
stop.
it on the night though, because there was a few that you could tell we tried and kind of maybe telegraphed it too much, and they did. They just said play on
Mm,
because he ducked into it. Like Butters had one where he kind of did really go like bull at a fucking red flag,
mm.
like, and so they didn't give it to him. I'm like, well, that's
Yeah.
what he did. Like, yeah, just consistency, man.
Well, just stop. Like, I don't
Or
know
don't
how it's
pay it. Yeah.
so obvious. I don't know how it's so obvious for us in the stands. And I'm talking all of AFL supporter base. I don't know how it's so obvious whether we're there
Yeah, and I mean,
live
you were in the
or
Hilltop
watching it
Woods
on
as well.
fucking TV. I was in the nosebleed. Yeah, fucking. I don't know how obvious it is for us to see, but the umpires still just pay it.
Hmm.
And whether that, yeah, like again, concussion and the over officiating to avoid litigation, like it's just bullshit. It damages the brand. Like if you're going to lurch into someone who's genuinely, and like I saw a photo of Peatling drawing a free kick, and he's basically laying on the ground sideways,
Hmm.
turned into the tackle, and it frustrates me to no end because seemingly it is so obvious.
Hmm.
And it's wet weather. It's Aussie rules football. We want it hard. We want it contested. Just play the fuck on. Let the game go.
Yeah.
There's no need to pay that. You're either A, gullible, or you're pandering to some fucking edict to keep the game safe and keep the AFL safe from litigation. I hate it. I
Hmm.
hate it because it's so obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the duty of care thing that we keep talking about that has come up a lot, particularly the Stephen May one. This is a completely separate situation, but they talk about the duty of care, and they really talked about they started talking about a lot with the Stephen May one, like the duty of care of the other player. Like they have to think about their duty of care in that situation too. And it's the
Yeah.
same with like a player that willingly goes head down to draw the free. Like they're abandoning their own duty of care. So you shouldn't like that's where the litigation thing is. Like you shouldn't have to be thinking about that. Just call the game on its merits. Like let them know that they've you know yeah you don't have to pay that one. Like the
No, I
any
mean Nick
and
Watson
yeah.
sorry to cut you off. Nick
No.
Watson
Yeah.
last week in Hawthorn got a, drew a free kick from Lockie Jones, was paid a
Mm.
free kick in front of goal, clearly played for it. But what made it worse is Lockie Jones actually never contacted him high.
Yeah.
It looked high-ish, but when you look
It
at the
was like
replay,
over
Lockie
the
Jones had
shoulder at
actually
best. Like on the edge of the
it
shoulder.
had hooked
Yeah.
him, yeah, and it hooked him under his armpit.
Mm.
And to give Lockie the benefit of the doubt, I would imagine that's probably intentional because of the reputation that Nick Watson has.
Mm.
But the umpires just still fucking pay it. just let the game fucking go. Almost to the point where it's like, if this is from a nuffy. I'm I'm happy for high contact to just be the head and neck. I know it's the top of the shoulders,
Yeah.
but like there can't be a reward for people continually and so egregiously playing for a free kick and just being rewarded for it.
Especially when a lot of those ones
It's
do just end up
ridiculous.
like because they slip up and get the shoulder. They don't, if they get the
Yeah,
neck,
or initial contact. Initial
yeah,
contact should be where the reference point is, not where the contact ends up. Now
yeah.
that can be probably cheated, to the negative side,
Mhm.
but I don't know. Obviously, spitballing in frustration because, again, to reiterate, it seems so obvious for us watching the game, whether from the stands or from your fucking couch, but we continually see it across the AFL season, it being paid by inept officiators of the game.
Yeah, yeah, and that's yeah. I completely agree. I found it. It's one of those ones that I've kind of just become numb to a little bit, like a lot of umpiring. And again, I don't want to like we yell at umpires on game day and whatever, and reasonably okay fashion. Like we don't go over the top. That's part of the experience of going to a game. But I genuinely don't blame the umpires too much in this situation. It's the AFL that's created this problem that we're in, and how they've just saturated the rule book with so much bullshit that the umpires continue, and then they change rules mid-year every year about like I mean to your point about the holding the ball thing. Like last year, it was like we're not going to let this happen, and then it's gone back to almost swung the pendulums almost swung the entirely the other way with the letting people go too much, which is just ridiculous. So I wanted to bring up a couple of other stats that just are really stark in their and their unfortunate horror to your beanie that they provide when you see them. Talking about stoppage, and again, this goes to that because the stoppage difference was only, I think, I mean, it's not only, but 39 to 34 stoppage clearances, and it was 13 to 11 at the centre, so 52-45 as a difference overall. So seven plus seven for clearances for the Crows in the day. So still a handy, like it helps it's particularly in a wet weather game, but they, as far as the actual scoring from stoppage, they kicked 8-8, 56 to 128 from stoppage. So they really generated a lot of score. And again, that helps with those efforts, that help that they give to their inside mids and getting that help around, getting that contested possession out of stoppage, getting the ball moving out of that situation rather than us just inviting pressure and turning it over. Because, I mean, the other one is
Mhm.
from Turner. So it was 8-8,
So
56
here
from,
we go.
here we go. I need to get a sting for it. No, I don't have my deck with me tonight, so I can't even play stings tonight. But I should mention, I should have done this from the top, but I'm house sitting tonight. So for those watching on YouTube, you'll see that I've just got my parents' window behind me. And if my audio sounds a bit different, I'm on my portable mic, which is still a very nice mic, but it's not the setup I usually have. But yeah, so yeah, 8-8-56 from stoppage, 12-5-77 from turnover to our four. So 4-3-27 from us from turnover. So most of our score was generated from their turnover, but that's probably going to happen on a game the wet weather game it was. But the problem was that we let them score 50 more points from turnover, and obviously 48 more from stoppage, which is there's your margin right there. But just the stark differences there to have an almost 50-point difference on either side. Like you sometimes one or the other as a pendulum swing. Both of those are just
Hmm.
stark contrast. And I mean, the turnover numbers on the day were horrible as well. Like we keep talking about like we just need to mitigate those differences in those areas. And like the Crows actually on the season average um, one turnover more than us per game. It's not a massive difference, but again, we talk about these margin calls in the previews often that we just need to mitigate these differences. So if I'd looked at that going into the game, I would have said, well, if we can just keep that turnover differential the same, then that'll go a fair way to doing the effort. But no, we had 96 turnovers for the match to their 77. So even in a wet weather game, they only went plus 10 on their season differential, whereas we went plus 30. So um, there's your game right there. We just were fucking horrible when we had the ball, and then we didn't get enough of it anyway. So they had more. Again, that's almost 1 in 3 of our disposals were turnover. We only had 300 disposals for the game. 96 of them were turnovers. Like that's horrific. That's
It's
again.
ridiculous. Yeah, it's honestly
Point at Jamie's
ridiculous.
beanie again. It's a horror show.
It's horror. Yeah, it's horror, my friend. But yeah, but when you look, it's an interesting stat in itself when you mentioned that Adelaide actually average a whole turnover more than us on the season.
Mhm.
But when you look at scores from turnover, they are net number one for scores from. So
Mhm.
obviously, although they turn it over one more time than us on average for the season, they clearly know how to set up better than we do.
Yeah.
Because they're number one for scoring from turnover, which is obvious. They have the components to really heavily take advantage of turnover.
Mhm.
Again, well drilled. They obviously have the system that works. But they're number two for preventing score from turnover. So, like you said, 67.9 times on average they turn it over, but
Mhm.
they clearly know how to structure up to mitigate those turnovers when they occur.
Yeah.
And it's something that whether it's due to this game plan change and that affecting the structure at large, personnel, whatever it is, we clearly have a lot of lessons to learn in how to structure up to avoid heavily, heavily bleeding from
Mhm.
turnover, which we've done the whole season. I mean, it's it's almost your one word when we come to recording time, whether it be on a Tuesday or a Thursday. Turnovers have seriously, again, round one, they've seriously, seriously hurt us all
Mhm.
throughout the season. And the Crows show that although you may turn it over, this is a turnover game now.
Mhm.
Everyone is talking about it. The game in 2025 and for the next period of time until someone changes it, it's a turnover based game. You're structuring up to affect turnover and then hopefully scoring from it. But then alternatively, it's on you to defend turnovers when they happen because you're
Mhm.
leaving yourself open to turn the ball over. That's just how the game is being played. We seriously have a lot of lessons to learn. A, turning over far less, but B, how to structure up
Mhm.
so that we're not bleeding so heavily. It is it, it's clearly it has to be high up on the board, even with a full complement. Injuries aside, you have to defend turnover far, far better than what we clearly have been.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the problem is like the ball gets turned over and then they find like we talked about the defense before they find their mismatches like Dan Curtin floating down forward to take a mark over Kane Farrell or whatever it was and it's just like yeah so we talked about in the preview I think as well or at some point last week we talked about Chad Corns being on radio at the start of the year or some form of interview talking about how this game plan will be won or lost based on our ability to mitigate the turnover or win the turnover differential. And then that seems like a almost Shakespearean that I keep remembering this one interview from him at the start of the year, and then that's been the thing that's happened the entire year
Mm.
since. So it was something that was known, or like whether what notice board point of difference on the notice board it was. They did know that this was part of the game plan, and that's just yeah, we don't have the and yes, injury again is a part of it. Like they are almost at full fitness. We were going to that game missing a serious stable of thoroughbreds that could have helped in that game. But it's probably, before we get to the forward line, one thing I wanted to note that I was thinking about as I was watching Jurassic Park, thinking about Raptors. If you bring most of the guys, like have your Powell-Pepper or HORNE-FRANCIS, not everyone, but some, like at least some of the players that played in the first showdown back into this game, I still think we lose by 10 goal the way it went, at least. Like it's just that's
Yeah.
that's I
It's
think
hard not to think that way,
yeah, like I just don't know
like in this
based
moment.
based on the if everything else is the same, weather conditions, us being done for the season, all those things are the same, and you just bring in a couple of like maybe Horn Francis and Powell-Pepper. I think they apply themselves well, but I just think the way the game goes and everyone else and the malaise and disposal efficiency and all those things. Like I can't see us. Maybe it's 30 or 40, or I don't know. Maybe it's just respectable rather than the absolute shit show it was. But I just don't see a way that this game, like now that I look back on it and how well the Crows have gotten better since that first showdown. We've gotten obviously our season
Mm.
prospects have tanked. We've got more
It
injuries.
is
So
very 2017
Yeah,
particularly
yeah.
from a showdown point of view,
Hmm.
how this has kind of worked out. I remember the second showdown in that year, and I mean
Uh-huh.
we were challenging for finals that year. Um, Wet, rainy, windy day at Adelaide Oval.
Hmm.
Crows were wildly inaccurate in the first quarter. We kind of hung around, and then they just went on their merry way and won by about 80 points in the end.
I think that was the previous
Is
record, was that one? So
Oh, right, because the semi-final is the one that sticks out in my
I
mind.
think the semi-final was maybe I think there's a point. I think when they put it up, because unfortunately watching on the telecast, we got these stats put on the
All
screen
right, so
for
they
us.
have the three highest margins. All right. So yeah,
Yeah,
fuck off.
yeah. I think
But
the
it was
semi-final one
eerily
is a,
similar.
yeah, a point or two difference to that one. But yeah. The worst thing about it is when they put those things up on the screen on Saturday night was like looking at our really nice 75 point win in 2020. I was like, that was in front of 2,000 people. Like we didn't even get to enjoy that one fully. Like I was meant to be at that game, but not I
Yeah,
didn't get a ticket, but I meant like going into the
yeah.
random side note, just because I've thought about it now. I still have from our membership pack that year the original fixture as it was pre-COVID on my fridge. I just keep that magnet on my fridge because I think it's just a
Yeah,
fascinating piece of
nice.
historical ephemera. Because
Yeah.
you'll see
Round
the
one stayed the same.
yeah,
Everything
exactly, and
after
everything
that,
else is fucked. Um, so and that's probably the
pretty
one
much.
year, maybe the one year in Ken's tenure that he could have won both showdowns because the Crows were at
Mm.
wooden
If there
spooners
were
then.
two, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah,
look,
I didn't get to enjoy that one live either.
yeah,
Um,
definitely watched it and
Fortunately.
sunk a shit ton of beer at home because it was at the time we were all, like, well, not locked down fully, but I was not at work. Man, anyway, that's a big side note, but yeah, that magnet is a random piece of memorabilia that is really, really cheap, but there's just something that stays on my fridge at all times. So I'm like, that's just a fascinating piece of history. Um, Forward line, I don't know. Mitch should have had 2 goals, one. Let's start there.
Hmm.
Have you actually watched the replay of that? Because I don't know what it was like in the ground for you, but um, yeah, the goal, the tap back off
Yes.
the arm, that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Wow. What a moment. Got to be honest. Thought it was all fair and
Hmm.
reasonable in the end at the ground. But having watched the KO Mini, yeah, they've missed the third piece of contact. So it
Yeah.
goes foot, wrist, foot, goal
Hmm.
from my point of view. But it seems like
I don't
in
think they've
the
missed that. I think they went with umpire's call, which is how they read it out at this ground, I assume. I think that's just what they've gone with. Is I think if umpire's call
they
had been a,
did, yeah, they did go
I
umpire's
think if
call.
umpire's call had been
Yeah.
a goal, they leave it as a goal. It's one of those ones, unfortunately. But I think
And
I also
I
think the
think they
evidence was
cornered
there.
themselves.
Hmm.
So do I.
Yeah,
But I think they cornered themselves in the end because well, from what we were seeing on the television, they seemed to be getting hell-bent on the precise, like on the side-on view, rather than that kind of three-quarter angle view from whether the camera's on the wing or in the pocket, which clearly showed the kick, the deflection, and then the deflection from the foot.
and there was a little
But then
gap there, and you could see on
there is.
that angle you're talking about, you could just see the ball didn't deviate at that point, and you could yeah that angle really showed it that they had some good angles on that one. That's what was annoying is like even though I get why it stayed the way it was, so I won't get too mad because it's just again it's the AFL's problem, not the umpire's problem on the day.
Yeah, and now they're scared of the Crows when it comes to umpiring decisions and goals,
Yeah,
basically. Like, it,
it's bush league
yeah, so
Audrey.
bush leg. Um, so yeah, hand up. I thought it was the right call live.
Hmm.
But having watched it again, Mitch should feel let down by
Yeah.
that call. I think it ended up being a fairly gutless call when, like you said, there seemed to be evidence to overturn the umpire's call, um,
Hmm.
considering what we had at our disposal.
Gary Lyon was
Again,
shattered. He
pull
was.
and chip
Hmm.
technology,
Hmm.
AI. fucking lasers, you know.
Freaking sharks with freaking laser beams on their head.
Laser, yeah.
Yeah.
We could have done with a few of those on the
Yeah.
day.
They might have survived in
Um,
those waters as well. Like there was enough
yeah,
water
and
on the
just
field.
kind of pick off a few Crows players along
Yeah.
the way. That'd be nice. But yeah, Mitch should feel hard done by. That's the term I was actually reaching for just then because, yeah, I think it was a goal.
Yeah. Um, Again, forward starved of opportunity.
Hmm.
So when you've got like a minus 20 difference for inside 50s, and then the fact that just because of the way the possession of the ball was, their inside 50s aren't, there's a, spectrum of inside 50 as well, as we've talked about, whether they're deep inside 50s and well placed ones, or they're just fucking hat kicks forward that go inside 50. We just weren't getting much good ball use going forward, and we're selling our forwards out. So I said it's really like Mitch could have ended up with, like, if that goal gets paid more or less correctly, he ends up with 2 goals, one for the day, rather than his 1 goal, two, I think, is what he ended up with.
He did end up with it, and deserves credit again, like for all these factors combined and all our powers combined. I am Captain Planet. Um,
Yes. Oh, I love that show.
Mitch is him. Yeah, all yeah, 90s children would. I would
Hmm.
hope. Very progressive for the time as well. Very environmentally conscious.
Speaking of
Captain Planet.
subconscious things, as we've been talking about with succession plans, I think subconsciously that led me down the path I am, like, probably politically and socially a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's an interesting case study, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, Captain Planet and its effects on millennial children. But we digress. Yeah, Mitch's game again. 3 shots on goal in a game that was like terrible, terrible. How
Mm.
many times do I have to say that? It's because I can't think of any other words in the moment, quite honestly. But to get the 3 shots on goal, still being a damaging presence, he actually worked his way up the ground. I mean, he had 18 disposals, which is more than a couple of midfielders that we had on the day. So
Hmm.
just a real, like, if we can take anything out of this season, it's pure appreciation for seeing the talent that is Mitch Georgiades kind of further his career
Hmm.
in what is quite possibly one of the hardest seasons he's ever had to play in conjunction with the team around him,
Yeah.
and while also providing a career best season in his own regard. It's just phenomenal. All the credit to him.
Yeah. The fact he could, if he'd a little bit of profligacy in front of goal aside, he could be far more in the Coleman race, though. Jeremy Cameron doing what he did against the Kangas the other night really doesn't help. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to slight him at all. Like, the fact that he's had the year he's had in such a dysfunctional Port team that it has been, yeah, no, one of the few shining lights of the year, really. Apart from, when we review the season at the end of the year, and I actually have more time to think about shining lights, we might have a couple more. But yeah, Georgiades is certainly probably the cream of the crop in that respect. I think was just the year he's had. Um, Otherwise, I mean, it was funny watching Port fans react to that 3 goal run and realizing, like, Jed McEntee and Jackson Mead had been like the providers of a couple of those. Um,
Yeah.
Really great. I
Great
mean,
moments.
very funny that the Mitch Georgiades one almost could have and should have been not a carbon copy, but very similar to the Jackson Mead one. Was a ping pong one that came back to him that he got the second tap in, and a very good
Yeah.
finish from him as well. The I mean, the Jed McEntee goal was legit great. Yeah, but other than that, I mean, there was some talk in the pre-game when the Magpies were playing. Dylan Williams kicked 6 goals. Some of the Twitter chat, which was from people I like, but it was a little bit brain rotty in that, oh, we've lost this game at selection. Dylan Williams should have played. Dylan Williams wasn't making shit about fuck difference to that result. Um,
Agreed.
I would like Dylan Williams to get more chances based on his form at the moment. Like,
Agreed.
I'm okay with that discussion, but there's that discussion that Dylan Williams get him some more chances, but he's not winning the game for us in the way that
No.
game was played. He's playing at Sandford level. He's going to come up and have a harder time, even if he plays the full game in Jed McAtee's place or Jackson Mead's place. We're still losing that game by between 80 and 100 points. The rest of everything else is staying the same. That's just
Hmm.
the reality, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately. Um, so yeah, that was just a
Agreed.
yeah. Would love to have seen him play in that one. I think, and maybe you know, again, I mean,
Maybe
interesting.
he gets a goal on the board
Yeah, yeah, that's what
from
I
the
mean. Maybe
fucking
it's
shit fuck amount of inside 50s that we generated.
yeah. Like, yeah, that's what I mean. Maybe it's 85 points instead of 98. Like, who knows? Maybe he gets a bat like a little purple patch in the game, but it's not changing much about how that game goes. Like, it's just yeah,
Hmm.
that's a small butterfly effect that just isn't going to change much about how that game went. Um, I will be critical. I mean, I think we're somewhat critical in our preview show as well, and we're a little bit perplexed. Um, I mean, the Crows go in with the tall forwards because they're. I mean, Riley Thilthorpe's generational at this point. Tex is a player that's kicked 600 odd goals at this point in his career and is in a reasonable vein of form, and also not having to be the cornerstone of that forward line anymore. Darcy Fogarty as well is very. They're all players that are handy with the ball, like sneakily handy with the ball at the ground level, as well as obviously being able to handle it in the air. Mitch Georgiades, obviously, we just talked about him having a good game. Lukosius could have been better, but again, he's just coming back from injury. I'm going to give him a Ollie Lord again. Just
And then he got injured.
yes, yeah, and he's probably out this week, or he is definitely. I think.
He's already been fucking ruled out.
Yeah. But Ollie Lord again, just I don't know what we're doing with Ollie Lord at this point. Throwing it like I think we're somewhat being unfair to him now when we keep throwing him into these
Yeah.
situations now. Like if he was this, if Jack Lukosius wasn't playing, then absolutely play him as a second. But when he's and yes, Mitch and Jack move up the field. Mitch certainly did in this game. Like Ollie, yeah, but I just don't think we're utilizing him well in these situations. We're kind of throwing him to the wolves, and he's deservedly getting some criticism for his game. But I think that's partly the selection's fault. Um, yeah,
Mm.
and look this game again. This game isn't getting won or lost by Ollie Lord being selected or not, based on the way it played. But I just think we didn't help ourselves at all by this game. The weather forecast was very obvious for this game going into it. Um,
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row.
yeah, yeah. The Patreon preview show weather report is brought to you by beer. I don't know, but yeah, yeah. I mean, I was just interested. Like, I don't have much more else to say on the forward line. Like, it is just what it is at the moment with the fact that we're just getting smashed out of it in between the arcs anyway, and the um, forward half time. But yeah, I just think we're not helping ourselves any in structuring up the way we are at the moment. It's very vanilla forward line and very obvious, and they're players that don't have form either. Like yeah, Ollie Lord hasn't
Yeah.
had a chance to build form, and he keeps getting thrown into different kind of roles. So I just don't know what we're doing there. It is very end of
Well, yeah.
season Malay stuff. Just throw them in and see what they can do, maybe. But I didn't like it for particularly for a showdown, which is the last match for our season that really means anything.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. The side is absolutely limping to the line, and then in this game, coming up against a side that's absolutely cannoning towards a finals push and a premiership push,
Mm,
unfortunately.
yeah.
Um, but I agree. And Ollie Lord did have a bit of form behind him to come back in.
Hmm.
But yeah, for 2 weeks in a row, when you know that the conditions just don't suit how we're actually playing, and putting to one side the fact that we
Also against the
can't
league's
generate,
best defense over the last couple of months as well, I think.
yeah, 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 and in down in fucking Tasmania as well.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, I don't understand it. Because I mean, he did more second ruck kind of stuff this time
Hmm.
around,
He
which he
did have a few
wasn't against
bouts.
Hawthorn. And I mean, being there live, he's still trying very, very hard,
Yeah.
but you don't get like trying very, very hard is the absolute barest of minimums that you expect from any player on the field. Um, and yeah, so he had a bit of form to come back in. He'd kicked what was it, 9 goals in a couple of weeks or whatnot. But
But he's the senior forward at that level at the moment. And when he comes up, he's the third
Mm.
So yeah, like if they're looking at his form in the sandful and going, oh yeah, okay, cool, bring you out, and then throwing him into second ruck duties and kind of playing
Yeah.
him somewhat out at like outside of the main two. I mean, Mitch Georgiades, yeah, he's still going to get looks, but I mean, with the way we're playing, it's just like it feels like we're throwing him to the wolves a little bit. Particularly in a side that just
Yeah.
isn't generating the forward 50 entries and forward 50 entries of quality to help out a player like him. He needs reps, I guess, to see what they can get out of him. But I don't know. It's such the Ollie Lord situation for the last now 24 months basically is just a really, really weird one. Injuries hasn't helped, all those things. And then just the way we're using him. I don't know what it means for his future. He's probably he could end up somewhere else and have a great time because I mean, he's another one that would be nice for him to put a little bit of bulk on as well. Just a little bit of tone would probably help him out. But he still does battle pretty well. But oh, man, it was every time the ball went, not that it happened a lot, went to our inside 50. I just was like, I don't have much hope for anything happening here unless Mitch Georgiades flies for a mark or does something special. But he's not going to be able to do that all game to be able to bridge a gap.
Mm.
So and then
And
yeah,
if we structure up like we all think we're going to next year, he's going to be even further down the pecking order, and that's
yeah,
also including the hypothetical situation where Visentini, the two ruck system, gets persisted with as
yeah.
well.
If a
Um,
fifth sub position, it's not for sub position, but if
yeah,
we do go to five on the bench,
a
yeah,
fifth interchange. Yeah,
hmm
yeah, and with 100 keg concussionless Todd Marshall.
hmm
Um, yeah, I really fear for Ollie Lord, and he's a player that any good-natured supporter really wants him to do well because I don't question his commitment to the club. I think he's a fantastic person, fantastic young man. The way he speaks and everything that goes along with the package that is Ollie Lord. But
And he's got some talent. Like that's the other thing. Like it's you throw that all into it and then go. He does have
mm,
talent that he has shown in snippets. It's just yeah.
oh, and Ken bristled at the question. It was in relation to Jed McEntee and what his reaction to discontent in Jed McEntee being picked. And he basically said everyone that gets picked for an AFL game, not only in Port Adelaide but elsewhere, they deserve it. And
hmm
in Ollie Lord's behalf, he deserves to be playing AFL football. But unfortunately, he is in a bit like Will Lorenz, actually.
hmm
He is in a twilight zone of a bit too good for SANFL or second tier football, but not quite good enough to impact at AFL level. And how someone breaks through that is in some cases a monumental challenge, particularly when tall forwards aren't a lot. It's a luxury that we have
hmm
in fitness permitting, obviously, because who knows what's going to happen with Finlayson. They've obviously drafted a young, promising key forward in Jack Whitlock,
Who's been impressing at the Sandful level for
who
sure.
has been impressed. So yeah, yeah, and I think Ollie Lord only signed a couple of year extension last year, so he's
hmm
contracted. You know, it could be a list management strategy to hold currency, but I
Straight
struggle
swap. I
letting
mean,
good.
St Kilda need a tall
Yeah.
forward because I don't know what's going to happen. Max King. So straight swap. Oh Lord,
Well,
Naz,
well,
let's
we
go.
could run the rookie draft line with Nazaya because we definitely can't trade first round draft picks. So all we need to do is finish lower than St Kilda on the ladder, um, and then we can walk him to the rookie draft. So that's the play I'm going for because
This
he's
is this is
out of
real like
contract.
Charlie Day in front of his board, like just like this is what I'm seeing. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, Max King is on a huge contract, but he's not going to come. He's fucking done. So maybe Ollie Lord could feature in St Kilda's spot. No, I don't like that type of chat because I don't like letting good people go. I know
mhm.
it's an I know it's a necessary portion of elite Australian rules football.
Yeah. No, look, I'd still like to
But yeah, I
look
think
at
we
a
all want the
future that
best for him.
yeah, I'd like to see a future with Ollie Lord as a power forward for Port Adelaide. It's just like we're stunting his develop. Like it's just because we're not playing well, and then he comes in as a third forward. It's just like, yeah, it's and a third forward in a dysfunctional forward line now suddenly because we've lost the likes of POWELL-PEPPER and Willie Rioli that were fleshing out that structure at the. Yeah, there's nothing there suddenly for that forward line, and it's just apart from Mitch doing Mitch things, which he did in this game considering limited opportunity.
Fucking
Um,
hell. Imagine the hole that we would be in if Mitch wasn't having the year that he's having.
yeah, I mean, I had a
I
brief
don't,
look.
yeah, yeah. I just had a shiver run down my spine at the thought of it. But
Yeah,
we can't be thankful for a lot this year, but he's definitely, again, to go back on Mitch Georgiades, he's one thing that we can be thankful for. We
yeah,
got a Willie Rioli, overweight, injured in the SANFL.
mm,
Um, Mitigating factors, not casting any aspersions, just a fact.
yeah.
And that was another thing. I think our scare factor, like when you're putting the two teams together on the weekend, the Crows go, "Who the fuck are these guys?" And we go, "Oh fuck, we gotta play, we gotta play it of our skins because they got them there."
Yeah, we
Um,
think of like forward 50 stoppage
those
situations
intangibles.
or any stoppage situations. The last showdown they had to really contend with Jason Horne-Francis busting through stoppage, Zach Butters, a fit Connor Rosie down back,
Showdown medalist. Yep.
Sam Powell-Pepper. Like there's just like whereas Connor Rosie's playing with one hand
Zava
basically.
Radigalia, the
Asava
man
Radicale,
mountain.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, they looked at they would have been looking at maybe I don't know if they look at tape of the last game, but they would have been like, well, don't have to worry about that guy, don't have to worry about that guy, don't have to worry about that guy. That guy, like Aaliyah, one leg, that guy, one hand, the showdown medalist. Yeah, so many people that are key stars for our team that they were just like they're either not there or they're coming in severely hampered by injury. So it's just
Undone.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
again, your points of danger that you made the point. And yeah, Willie Rioli not there as well. Yeah, it's just, yeah, they had no points of danger to worry about. And they could really key in on the few players that could really, and Butters still had a decent game, but yeah, otherwise they didn't have much to worry about, and that the result kind of a 98-point loss kind of is actually fairly probably fair for the where the sides are at this point of the season. As unfortunate as I hate saying that, I hate the fucking Crows. Um, I have the kind of apart from a few players that I legitimately hate, I have the kind of Vince Vaughn and Anchorman like I fucking hate you. But I do respect the way they're going about it at the moment as a team. Like just at how they're playing, objectively is very, very good football, and unfortunately, they put us to the sword with that football on Saturday night, which is very, very painful to say. But yeah, they've just they've fucking struck gold with just how they've built that list over the last 24 months. Um,
Mhm.
Segments.
Let's do it.
Mm,
Play the non-existent sting.
yeah. Alrighty, there is no Wilson Gray sting this week because we have made a judgment call based on the game that was played and based on the spirit of the Wilson Gray Award. And I don't want to say that players weren't giving some effort in the game. Like, I don't think players completely gave up, weren't trying. That's not what I'll ever say about players. But as we've kind of talked about, the thesis of some of this podcast was about subconscious states and where our team is at, and we just played below the standards that are acceptable for what the spirit of the Wilson Gray Award is, and it resulted in one of the most embarrassing results in one of the most important games year to year for us as Port Adelaide fans. And neither of us did a rewatch to try and find one as well. So here we are. I think you agreed with that. We texted about this before, Jamie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I struggle with this because I like the spirit of some of this stuff is we just go we push forward, and we're doing this podcast week to week in a season that isn't much fun to do it at times. Although I do love doing this with you, it is very therapeutic to be able to bounce these ideas off each other week to week. But yeah, I couldn't do it. The Wilson Gray. I think this game is such an abject failure in the spirit of what Port Adelaide football is. I don't want to get like old man Port Adelaide and be like this is what would have happened 50 years ago. Like I understand what AFL is, but this was still far below the standards, and I just couldn't do Wilson Gray this week. I don't think it's right in a game that was as embarrassing as that was, and it would have been hard to find them in that result on
Quite
rewatch. I think.
frankly, yeah.
Yeah. Um, So
Totally
yeah,
agree. One of the biggest reliefs of the past week is not having to, try and search for something to nominate because it would have only been tokenistic at best anyway.
yeah. We'll get to goal of the week in a moment, and that luckily they considering we didn't kick too many, there was a couple I think. So we'll do that. But again, there's somewhat tokenistic, but at least goals are just a binary thing. They're goals, and if you kick five of them, you
Yeah.
can find a couple to throw up and see if a couple of people vote this week. Hopefully, you do see the votes drop a lot less. The votes are a lot less when we lose. Like people just I think just go fuck it, we lost. I don't want to touch this, but when you
I
win,
don't want to vote.
yeah, which I understand, but again, check out the Instagram stories tomorrow. We're recording this on Tuesday evening. The podcast will release tomorrow morning, so check out as you're listening. Check out the Instagram stories this evening, Wednesday evening, to vote for as we get into it the goal of the week.
Monfrez has kicked a goal. Unbelievable. Haven't seen anything like that. It's gone at right angle.
Flashpoint, Stevie Mobley, what a time! Oh! He is floating on air now!
Alrighty, I get to go first this week, which is good because there's only 5 to choose from. So sorry, Jamie, but I think we'll be fine. We've already talked about a couple, but I'm going to go with I just found it aesthetically pleasing, and I love good reaction times, and there's a little bit of luck as well. But Jackson Mead's goal, I'm just going to go with that one.
Big flies go up. Georgiades can't mark it. Almost the crumb and goal. Mead had a second hack at it and got it there. It doesn't matter how, just matters how many.
It's one of those nights where there's going to be a lot of kicks off the ground. What a leap by Georgiades. I think he got a knee in Worrell's head there as well.
This is a terrific head. This is a terrific effort. The heads up, awareness, and then a little outside of the boot up. So it's a terrific goal that they badly needed.
Much maligned, and for good reason, Jackson Mead this year, but I think that was a good moment for him and a nice little goal. Just one of those great AFL moments that just goals happen out of. You just have to be in position sometimes to kick him, and sometimes you get a bit of fortune, which Jackson Mead needs some. So, yeah, Jackson Mead's goal in that started our little run for a brief period of time.
Yeah, it finally got us on the board goal-wise, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it did. Yeah,
In
it
the
was
first quarter. So, hard times. Good goal. Yeah, good goal. I'm happy you nominated that because I was actually going to go for Jed's kick from the pocket because we all love an underdog. We all love an underdog story, and there's none bigger than Jed McEntee, I don't think.
To Georgiades, who was pushed in the back as he kicked it. McEntee's marked it anyway.
Yeah, great mark. Well done.
Siren about to sound on him, so he can't run around now. Struck it well. Struck it magnificently. You can't strike it any better than that.
From Port Adelaide sense. So when he got the mark in the pocket, I don't think anyone expected a lot. And to his credit, he went for the drop punt and absolutely fucking nailed it. So yeah, from a pure goal kicking point of view, straight as an arrow. It was bloody sensational.
Yeah.
Credit to him, and being one of his 2 goals for the game, being our leading goal kicker. So fair fucks to Jed McEntee, and he at least goes away with a nomination, at least for goal of the week, if not the year.
His other goal was a reasonable. That was a snap as well, wasn't it?
That was a snap, in congestion.
Yeah. My second choice, if I'd been going second, if you hadn't gone, my other one was that McEntee goal. So yeah, not hard on a day like today for us to be in fair synced on this one because there's 2 of the 5 that we scored. But 2 good ones, and I agree with you, McEntee. Just classic footballer going back for the drop punt and slotting it. 1 point. Oh, fucking two times multiplier in difficulty based on the conditions, even though the rain hadn't properly started hitting there yet. But very, very good stuff from Jed there. And it's a good Mead or McEntee for a goal of the week is going to have some Port fans and conniptions, I'm sure. But we'll see how the votes go.
Yeah.
I say that facetiously. Love you guys all out there. It is funny that some of the discourse around these guys, some are very, very warranted, but Mead or McEntee for goal of the week this week. That sums up the showdown, I think. All right, let's get to the player of the year votes.
Now it's time for the CREEDCAST Player of the Year voting.
Alrighty. It's a tough one this week, but Jamie, sorry. Yes, you do get to go first. I was just looking at my list and I had mine first in on my list, but I've got my spot ready to type yours in. You do get to go first. Very, very intrigued to see where you get to go with this one.
Very interesting. Chopped and changed a little bit, but honourable mentions, or I'll do one honourable mention because you obviously haven't gone yet. George, for all the reasons we spoke about before. I actually had him in my votes to begin with. Just, again, playing your role, affecting the game based on your role, da-da-da-da-da. But unfortunately, just an honourable mention. My one vote goes to Jordan Sweet, who we touched on before. 45 hitouts, 15 to advantage. I actually thought he got well beaten in the immediate aftermath of the game, but I think that's more so the goals that O'Brien unfortunately kicked on the night, sullying everything else that Jordan Sweet did. From a hitouts point of view and hitouts to advantage point of view, Jordan Sweet clearly won that battle. He also had 11 disposals, 9 of which were contested. 223 metres gained, 3 score launches, which obviously means 3 score involvements, 4 clearances, 4 inside 50s, 19 pressure acts, and 4 tackles. So after having a best on ground performance, just a ridiculous game of football on his behalf, still the best players for two weeks in a row. So again, it's the little wins, it's the little notes of positivity as we draw this AFL men's season to a close. And one thing you can say about Sweet is he hasn't given up on the year while having his own battles from a form and selection point of view. So credit to him. 2 votes goes to Alir. I thought those guys were at a hiding to nothing like we spoke about. But some Alir on 1.5 legs or 1 leg, however you want to put it, I thought he stood up relatively well. 14 disposals, 8 of which were contested, 13 were intercepts, 6 ground ball gets for Alir as well, 64%, which is at the higher end of our disposal efficiency. 427 metres gained, 5 marks, all of which were intercepts and 2 of which were contested, 4 rebound 50s, and then to top it off, he had 7 contested defensive one-on-ones and he didn't lose a single one, funnily enough. After we were just chatting about their tall forwards and whatnot. So just goes to show, you mentioning mismatches and whatnot, when we actually had the matchup that we wanted, he didn't get beaten. My 3 votes goes to Connor Rosie. Indifferent game, but still a good game, if that makes sense. I really wish that he could have marked it a lot more. It seemed to just bounce off his chest all night. But he had the 22 disposals, 9 of which were contested, 450 odd metres gained, 5 clearances, 5 rebound 50s, 25 pressure acts, which is a good old school Connor Rosie stat from last year at least. 7 tackles. Not much more to say on that. Just tried his best, didn't really come off that well. My 4 votes then goes to Kane Farrell in a similar position. I thought he performed better than our skip. 24 disposals, 6 intercept possessions out of those, 6 ground ball gets as well. He had 21 kicks out of those 24 and 66% disposal efficiency. Again, wet weather game, that's on the higher end of our disposal efficiency ladder. Nearly 770 metres gained, which is ridiculous off the super boot. 10 rebound 50s, and he also had 15 pressure acts, which leaves my best on ground to be Zach Butters for all the obvious reasons. 34 disposals, 19 of which were contested. 10 ground ball gets, 670 odd metres gained, a goal assist, 3 score involvements, 11 clearances, 8 inside 50s, 22 pressure acts, and 4 tackles. That one's pretty obvious one. He was everywhere and had renewed calls for him to should have, could have, would have been captain. Of course, when he has a good game.
Yeah. No, I did notice that on Twitter. It was, I get it, but it's also like Connor Rosie's had plenty of, Connor Rosie going out there with one hand was fairly,
being the reigning Showdown medalist, if you want to classify it that way in
Exactly.
sequential order.
Exactly. Yes. No, he was, and had a very, very inspirational game in that showdown. So, um, yeah, it's very recency bias, and people just, for some reason, having there's this weird aspersion to Connor Rosie in some parts of the fan base. I think I'm not sure why, but yeah, that's
Me
it's a
either.
conversation for another day. I like the votes. Very, very similar to mine. I think the one difference actually is my one vote, and then it extrapolates out to where my votes went. So your honourable mention was to George. My honourable mention is to Rosie, who I didn't get into my votes though. Was in there, in the 2 and 1 spots for a little bit, and then he just ended up out. Very good reasons by you to have him in there. He just ended up my honourable mention with my one vote going to your honourable mention in Mitch Georgiades. I will say one guy I thought about for a while if he'd probably played out the game. Lockie Jones, I thought played well. Like again, effort wise, I think he applied himself in the right manner for the game until obviously.
AFL website had him as one of our best players, so
Yeah,
he
there you
went
go.
far off there.
Yeah. So yeah, Lockie Jones honorable mention. Connor Rosie for me was an honorable mention, but Georgiades in my one spot. We've talked about his game already, like 18 disposals. So getting up the ground and trying to help out up the ground in a game that needed him to do that if he wanted to be involved. And yeah, he was in seventh in our leading disposal getters. Obviously the 1-goal-2 that should have been 2-goal-1, and he went at 61% disposal efficiency, which is almost 10% more than we did as a team on the day. So getting those numbers, doing what he's trying to do for the team, very good stuff from George. I went 2 votes for Aaliyah, so same reasons as you. I'll breeze through the rest pretty quickly because they're all the same players, just slightly different positioning. So I had Sweet in the 3 spot. Yeah, I guess the goals against by O'Brien are kind of the one area you go, oh, well, but I mean, that one, very funny when Riley O'Brien on the boundary keeps on trying to hand it to Ben Keys and played on twice, and it should have been just play on at that point, but the umpires kept on calling it back for him, letting him have another go, and it felt like junior footy. Like, no, don't do that. Keep doing. You should do this. Like, just go kick the goal. And I was just like hearing the echoes.
It's also Ben Keys, just another instance of an AFL player not knowing the rules. The exclusion zone isn't just for opposition players; it's actually for everyone.
Yeah.
So when time off is called,
But
everyone has to
shouldn't
get
the
out.
smartest man in football just tell Ben Keys to fuck off then? Because he knows?
But the guy with all the medical degrees,
Yeah. That's
one would have thought.
Yeah. Now, I had that going in my mind. I was like watching there's some interesting Twitter chat between some friends of the pod as well as some non-friends of the pod about what constitutes why he's known as the smartest man in football. Because friend of the pod, Timmy Nash, was like, he can't be smart if he follows certain personalities like Jordan Peterson, and someone else was like, well, that's a that's a narrow-minded point of view. and so I was just like having this internal dialogue of like smartest man in football stuff whenever he did things, and like when he's not understanding what's going on, the umpires are giving him like 3 chances.
And then he kicked the goal anyway.
I know, which was very,
we
very,
got there
very
in the
annoying.
end.
Yeah. But I was just like, smartest man in football should just know that and tell Ben Keys to fuck off. But anyway, so yeah, Jordan, he had the goals against from Riley Bryan, but I think that's part of that. It's just like the weight of the way the field was tilted as well didn't help him out there. But overall, I think he applied himself well for the game. And again, we're trying to find votes in a game that was lost by 98 points. So yeah, 3
and
votes.
O'Brien did give up a goal to Sweet as well.
Very good goal.
He's
from
only
Sweet
one.
Too. That was
one
in
goal
consideration
in
for me. Like he's kicked 2. Kicked 2 good goals from 50 odd ish in shit weather the last 2 weeks. So like, good on you, George. Like, good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. More of that, please, next year.
Dwayne hit the Sweet. Struck it sweet or something
relief?
like that again. Yeah. I can't remember exactly what he said. It might have been sweet relief this week. I can't remember.
I have no idea. I just pulled a saying out of it.
Yeah, he did do a sweet dialogue again for the goal, so that was fun. And yeah, Kane Farrell at 4 and Zach Butters at 5 for me as well. Kane Farrell has actually applied himself quite well over the last couple of weeks and really found himself.
Yeah, he really has. I think he's been in our best players at least for the last 3 weeks straight.
Yeah,
I can't remember further back than then.
I can't even think if we played before Hawthorn. So it's just, We
West
won.
Coast.
Oh, West Coast. Yeah. That's why I can't remember because it's fucking West Coast. And it was that game that it was. Yeah, Farrell at 4, Butters at 5. Same reasons as you. Yeah, they applied themselves very well. Like there wasn't too many good players in this game, but I think those ones that are in our votes did okay. Unfortunately, it's just that wasn't enough for a game that had too many passengers. So yeah. Anything else to say on this one, or burn the fucking tape?
Oh, absolutely burn the fucking tape. And we actually got through it, and we've gone at regulation time. So
I know.
let's just skip on to the next shit show that we're walking into
Yeah.
briefly.
Yeah, very briefly. We'll obviously do our squad show on Thursday, which will probably be brief as well. I think let's just start talking about the women a little bit at the end as well as the season gets
Oh,
closer.
fuck
Like,
yeah. I'm so keen for the AFLW season to start. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, we get to go to the Cattery this week, which is fun. Like Jeremy Cameron's just kicking bags at 10, 11. So yeah. So yeah, obviously playing Geelong down at Alphabet Soup Stadium this Sunday at 2:45 p.m.
Alphabeti Biscotti.
Yeah. 2:45 p.m. Alberton Standard Time this weekend on Sunday. So a nice little Sunday afternoon watch for everyone. Speaking of the women, they play their last trial match on Sunday afternoon too. So I'm going to be down at Alberton catching that and probably catch a bit of this game in the bar there, I guess, as well. Odds: the Cats are $1.05. We're $10.50. So that just shows you right there where we're at as far as bookies and expectations are now at. We have just dropped right off the edge of the planet. One for the flat earthers out there.
Dropped off the edge
Yeah.
of the slice.
That's what happens to all the boats in their minds. They just go to the edge and then they drop off. I assume that's how the Bermuda
Fall
Triangle.
off.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, no more of that. But yeah, that's our season has dropped right off the edge, and to see those kind of numbers attributed to us in betting circles. Again, gamble responsibly, people. We're not sponsored at all. It's just the bookie markets are always an interesting way just a point of view into how we're seen as a team. And yeah, Geelong are basically almost unbackable. I think it is. Yeah, they're almost even worse. I think if they play Essendon in a couple of weeks, it's even worse. But yeah. Injury list for us, obviously. Lockie Jones is a test with that corky that he got on the weekend. Jack Lukosius is out for a couple of weeks. Probably just put him on cotton wool for the rest of the year, maybe. But it'll be interesting to see if they bring him back for the last couple of weeks. And then, the rest. I mean, Burton's still a few weeks away. Benny Barrett got injured in the Sandful with a syndesmosis one, so he's probably done for the year, you'd think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, fucking why not? They've got TBC on the injury list at the moment, but they said syndesmosis that's had some surgery already, so that
it'll soon get turned to season, I feel.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And then the rest of the injury list is obviously, as we know, with all the season enders, with the likes of HORNE-FRANCIS, Marshall, Cochrane, POWELL-PEPPER, etc. The one that isn't noted there, but I just saw a tweet from Drew Jones tonight on Twitter that I don't know where Drew Jones, Fox Footy, just something to do with Miles Bergman, the consideration out there to shut him down for the year and get him booked in for that shoulder surgery that we've touched on a bit, and clearly he's been hampered by. So he's not on the injury list yet, but that's another one that could be out. So we don't have a chance in this game anyway. But
it's real lambs to the slaughter type areas. You imagine Zach Butters is going to put in a shift. Connor's going to be running fucking both ends of the ground.
If he plays,
I
know he's not on the injury list, but his hand is still an issue.
I think Josh Carr said that he will play.
Okay.
Josh Carr obviously had an interview yesterday. And I think he mentioned that Connor will play on.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear.
So,
assuming
we'll get the same handful of suspects doing their darndest on with injured bodies, but it's real lambs to the slaughter type stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is with Lukosius out, we'll talk about the squads more when we know of them, but just as a point that I immediately think of is, like we've just talked about, Ollie Lord being the third. If he stays in the side, I mean, he has to at this point. I don't know. I mean, you could bring Finlayson in. I don't know. But, I think at this point, just keep Lord in the side, particularly if Lukosh is out for a couple of weeks, and see what he can do in tandem with Georgiades again.
Well, it's funny because he came in for that St Kilda game as well as Zach Butters and Asaba Radicalea. And for that, 3 to 4 week period,
We
it
were
seemed to be
happy.
working.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just absolutely dropped off a cliff. So, yeah, like you said, hope perhaps if he's kept in the side, A, and B, he can find some rhythm being another tall target. Who knows what the weather's going to be like. But, yeah, selection's going to be interesting. We'll we'll get a window into how much they want to continue pushing on for the rest of the season. But with Bergman likely to be going in for surgery and the others that you mentioned, it's looking for the positives with a fine-tooth comb because you're going to have to be looking pretty closely.
It's like looking for a needle in a stack of needles. That's about it. I think that's about it for tonight. We'll obviously do our squad show later in the week, but they're going to be a bit like binary at this point with how we're looking. But we'll keep plugging away and keep trying to find. At this point, it's just looking at what some of these guys are going to look like going into 2026. That's about it from me. I don't have my Sting deck, as I said. I'm sitting at my parents' lounge room house sitting for the night, so I don't have anything else. I don't have Stings to hit apart from myself saying, "Can the pair."
Appreciate everyone's support. It's tough times, but as Dave said, can the pair.